God damn, this Norgfish is fucking insane to catch. I can't. It's so hard to get these things, man.
Tenno, there's a time-limited mission alert available. Check navigation.
It's so hard to catch the Norgfish. Fuck. What is going on, guys? It is your fellow TDefton here, back with another video on Warframe, as always. Anyway, so today, I've got a little bit of an informative video for you. I want to tell you, or teach you, about a focus tree. Yes, today's focus tree in question, not really sure about because this is a pre-recorded video, but I just want to let you guys know that today we are going to be focusing on a focus tree. And I, from now on, will be going over each and every focus tree in depth, having you guys understand exactly what each focus tree does, what each node is for, how much each node gives you in terms of stats and stuff like that, just so that you guys have a better understanding of exactly what everything is and what tree you should go for, and if you're going for a specific tree, what node you should go for, what's worth your time. So that is what these videos are going to be for. Now, before I actually get into the focus tree of the day, I do want to have you understand what exactly each of the Tenno abilities are, what they're called, what they're used for, etc., etc. So, let me go ahead and get into that, and then we'll get into the focus tree. Okay, so today we're going to be going over the different focus abilities of the Operator, and there are 4 in question. Well, technically 3. But really 4 if you want to consider your Void Beam another ability. But I'll get into that a little bit later. So the first ability that you have as your Tenno is actually going to be Void Dash. In order to use Void Dash, all you have to do is hold down Control or whatever your crouch key is, and then press Space or whatever your jump key is. And then it will dash you forward, and it will consume a little bit of energy as you do so. The next ability we have is actually going to be called Void Blast, and that is a melee attack done by your Operator. So if you go ahead and tap E, what this attack does is it actually knocks down and ragdolls enemies when you are around them. And the last ability would, well, if you want to consider it the last ability, would actually be Void Mode, which is literally just holding down crouch. What this allows you to do is be invisible to enemies and also not receive any damage whatsoever. So you are immune to damage when you are in Void Mode. You have to be careful because it does consume energy, and depending on the school you use, it could consume even more energy, and that goes for any of the abilities. Now, the last thing that the Operator can do, I'm not really sure if you want to consider it an ability, but it is something the Operator can do, so I guess we'll consider it an ability. Basically, it is your Void, like laser, your Void Beam, and it's exactly what it sounds like. You hold down your shoot key and then it fires off a laser. The reason why mine is semi-automatic is because I have a separate amp. I will talk about amps in another video, in the Quills video, so make sure you look out for that. But just know that when you press your left mouse button or whatever your fire button is, it will shoot off a laser that will damage enemies. This is Vazarin 2.0. Now, with like any of the focus trees, Vazarin also has 10 different perks, or 10 different nodes that you can unlock. This happens to have 4 different passives and 6 different actives, or if you want to call them actives, that's, you know, that's these circle things. So you have 4 of these hexagons, and then you have 6 of these circles. So, we have Mending Unity, starting it all off. This is the seed of the entire tree, right? It is the center of the entire thing. Mending Unity, on base, it increases the affinity range, or radius, the infinity radius by 10 meters. And when it's max, it actually increases it to 25 meters, or by 25 meters. So that's 25 on top of the, I believe it's 50 meters. That's already the regular affinity range, or the affinity radius. So that is very, very helpful. Now, you hear me say it is very, very helpful, but you might be like, how the hell is this helpful? You know, it's affinity range. Who the fuck cares? First of all, it can help you in terms of focus farming or XP farming. phenomenal for those. I mean, honestly, it helps out so much because, you know, you'll have more room to move around and do stuff. Another thing that is very helpful with, or helpful for, is actually Trinity's Blessing or Covenant. And both of those are affected by Mending Unity, or the affinity range, right? It's affected by affinity range. So if you use either of those, this is definitely a good perk for you. Covenant for Harrow, by the way. That's who I'm referring to. So if you use Harrow, if you use Trinity, this perk can be very helpful to you. Next up, we have Mending Soul. Mending Soul on base gives 1 instantaneous revive, and at max it gives 4 instantaneous revives. And it is basically the same perk that we had before. The only difference is, I believe it is a cap thing per level, or per mission. So like, once you hop out of your Warframe, you only have that 1 instantaneous revive for the rest of the mission. I believe that is how it works. I have not unlocked it myself. If somebody can, you know, correct me on that if I'm saying it wrong, please go ahead and do that in the comments, because as I said, I am unsure, but I believe that is the case with Mending Soul. So let's go ahead and move on. So Enduring Tides and Rejuvenating Tides, I'm gonna kind of put these together because they kind of go hand in hand, right? So Enduring Tides, it increases the operator health. So your operator, his health is going to increase by 150%. I believe the base health for the operator is 350, and when you get this thing, it actually increases to 650 or 625. I believe that's the amount. So that is obviously very helpful, right? That's a very good amount of health to have for the operator, especially when you have something like the Salic Scales, which actually is from the Unairu tree, which I will talk about in another video. So, another thing is Rejuvenating Tides. Rejuvenating Tides actually, on base, increases your operator's health regeneration by 1 per second, and when it's max, 4 per second. So, that's a lot of health to get back, especially when you max it. And if you unbind this thing, your operator can actually take a lot of damage and go into void mode and gain all that health back without any real issues. So, that's basically it for the passives. Let's move on to the actives. Let's go down here to Guardian Shell. So with Guardian Shell, you actually can create a shield that absorbs damage. On base, it actually absorbs, or drains energy every 150 damage absorbed, which is a pretty small amount. But when you upgrade it all the way, it actually absorbs 300 damage, and that's when it starts to drain energy. So that's a pretty large amount to, you know, that's a pretty good cushion, right? Next, we move on to Guardian Blast, which I actually think is probably one of the coolest perks in this tree. Now, what Guardian Blast does is when you actually use your Void Blast, and if you don't know what Void Blast is from the beginning of the video, Void Blast is actually your melee attack as your operator. When you actually use Void Blast on an ally or your own Warframe, you actually give them shields. And on base, it's 25, but hey, guess what? When it's maxed, it gives 100. It gives 100, and it also increases the radius from 5 meters on base to 8 meters. So that gives a lot of cushion, and not to mention, when you use Guardian Blast, guess what happens? You guessed wrong. What happens is you actually get overshields. It actually gives you overshields, so that can be very, very helpful, especially when you max this thing at 100 shields. That will, if you keep on banging that out, it will easily fill up your overshields. The one thing you have to notice is it does drain energy up like crazy. 25 energy basically destroys your entire energy bar, so you wanna keep that under wraps. The next thing we're gonna do is go over Projective Dash. Now, what Projective Dash does is when you actually use Void Dash, any allies hit are granted immunity from damage for 1 second and heal 25% of their health over 5 seconds. At first, that might not seem that great, but when you max this thing, you actually get 2 seconds. So immunity to damage for 2 seconds after you Void Dash through them. And they're healed 75% over 5 seconds. 75% of their health over 5 seconds. That's a lot of health. The next thing we have is Sonic Dash. Sonic Dash it basically changes up your Void Dash, so it no longer displaces enemies, so it doesn't ragdoll them, so that's kind of shitty. But instead what it does is it emits a shockwave 8 meters wide and travels 2 meters, stunning any enemies it hits. So if you guys remember what the Zenuric tree does with the bubble, right? I'm sorry, I'm not remembering the name of it right now, but trust me, that energy bubble that the Zenuric thing has, it's basically the same situation with Sonic Dash. Instead of the Void Bubble, what it will create is a shockwave that will spread out from wherever you hit. Now, on base, it is the 8 meters wide and 2 meters, and it travels 2 meters, stunning any enemies it hits. But when you max it, it actually is 14 meters wide, and it travels 8 meters extra, and it also stuns any enemies it hits. Unfortunately, there's nothing, I haven't read anything or seen anything in terms of how long that lasts, but I am assuming it is somewhere within 10 seconds, because that's usually the way that stuns work. To be honest, I'm not entirely sure. But if anybody knows that, please go ahead and let people know in the comments, and I will add your comment to the description of this video. Okay, so we're on to the last two active perks. So we have Void Regen and Void Aegis. So let's go over to Void Regen. Void Regen is pretty self-explanatory. What it does is it actually allows your Tenno to have increased health regeneration when you go into Void Mode. Void Mode is the invisibility thing that I was talking about, right? At first, 4 health per second is kind of it's meh, you know what I mean? It's okay, but when you max it, it actually gives you 25 health per second. That's insane. That will fill up your health bar so quickly, and it only drains 2 energy per second, and that does not change. That's a constant thing no matter how much you upgrade it. So that is a really cool ability, and that really helps out in terms of any fight that you're getting into, whether that's Eidolon fights or other. And the last active for today, we have the Void Aegis, right? Void Aegis actually creates a shield that grows up to 5 meters over 5 seconds. This costs an additional 2 energy per second. So, when you're in Void mode, you start having a shield, it expands from you, and it starts draining 2 energy per second to actually expand. And I believe once it hits its max range, that is when it stops, and that is when it stops draining your energy. Now, if we max it, we actually get a range of 12 meters. So this thing actually grows 12 meters, and it is a shield that is, you know, invulnerable to damage or whatever. Overall, this is a really, really good perk if you are in an Eidolon fight, for example. Like, let's say the Eidolon does the ability where he rains hell, right? He rains hell upon everybody around him. You can actually use your Void mode, create a shield, all of your allies go inside of it, they're all protected from damage. They're not taking any damage from that fucking rain of hell, right? So, that is one thing that you have to consider as well. So, that is basically it for the Vazarin tree. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions about it, please let me know down in the comments. I will gladly answer. This is a tree that I'm focusing on leveling up right now. So, I'm pretty proficient in it already, but if I, learn anything new or anything along those lines, I'll probably post it on Twitter. So if you guys, or on my Discord, probably both. So if you guys want to receive updates on the, any new findings that I find on the focus trees or anything along those lines, please go ahead and let me know in the comments, and I will gladly do it. Or I'll gladly answer your questions, or redirect you to where I already answered that question, etc., etc. So.
Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'm going to catch you in another video.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you did enjoy. If you did, please go ahead and leave a like down below and leave a comment letting me know what you guys thought of this video. If you guys like these focus overviews, let me know. I'm thinking about doing it for all of them, but we'll see how this video goes. As I said, if you enjoyed, please go ahead and leave a like. Subscribe if you're new to watch more operator focused content, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thanks so much. Peace.